Hi guys. Hi babe. Oh, you've got the crush. Alright, you can give me a kiss when you finish the crush. Yes, probably, yeah.
Righto, here we go.
Just having a bit of a joke with Yah. Brings back memories. The Jordanian Codex, 1st century Jesus, is Yahweh-Jesus by Leonard, Golightly-Marshall. I added, Pierre did the video on it. Thank you, Pierre, his work is always marvellous. But I added the soundtrack where they're yelling and screaming and clapping for Yeshua. It was from, I believe it was a 2010 meeting, the prayer vigil at the Cave Church in Cairo. It's the Church of the Zabbaleen. Now we were there in 2013 at the Cave Church. The story of the Zabbaleen community is remarkable. And they have literally dug out of the Mokattam mountain what began with just a very small grotto area years ago when the father, I forget his name at the moment, but the guy who started the church at the community, and they've been digging ever since. It must have been, I think, the early 80s, might have been the 70s. But anyway, they've been digging what started out as this grotto to now house 30,000 people in this absolutely fabulous cave church. It's the Church of the Zabbaleen in the Zabbaleen village in Cairo.
Which is full of garbage.
Now, the Zabbaleen have their own story. They were introduced, they started to migrate to Egypt in the 1940s. And they became the garbage collectors. And the Zabbaleen village houses, it's now in excess of 15,000 Zabbaleen community people who are all now Christian thanks to the ministry of this dude who started it. Now the kicker is, first of all, they're really efficient at sorting and recycling, and you drive through the village as we did, and each side of the road is stacked high because their houses start out low, and as the piles of recycled garbage grows higher, so do their houses because they live above the garbage. But it's all very neatly stacked and tied and bundled.
My brother would have loved it.
Right. And in some years ago, they won the award for being the most efficient recyclers because 85% of Cairo's garbage that they take back to the village to sort and sift is recycled. And they had pigs there to eat all of the organic, all of the organic refuse. So the place was, compared to the rest of Cairo, remarkably clean, ordered, because the garbage
Did we go to the same place?
I'm talking about the rest of Cairo where the garbage is, Cairo's built on garbage. But anyway, now the kicker is that during the swine flu hoax in 2009, the government of Egypt decided to get rid of all the pigs, and so the pigs were sorted. Well, of course, that meant that all of the organic refuge just then laid around to rot because the pigs were cleaning it up, etc. But worse than that, then the government got the bright idea to begin awarding a contract. It was $450 million a year to two companies. One was French, I believe, and the other Italian, to bring in their garbage trucks to do what the Zabbaleen were doing. Well, they did all that. They brought in the garbage trucks, imported them, etc., and then found, of course, that the garbage trucks couldn't go down the very narrow laneways that the Zabbaleen used to go faithfully daily with their donkey or horse and cart. And then the little boy that accompanied the horse and cart would go to each apartment building and each owner or tenant would pay the boy, you know, about 2 Egyptian pounds, divide that by 6 and you've got an Australian dollar, per week, or how often it was, to take the garbage back to the horse and cart, and was carted out of Tyre to the base of the Mokattam mountain, back to the Zebulun, and it was all sorted and recycled. So by the time we get there in 2013 and this system of the trucks completely failed, Cairo, I can honestly say, is nothing but a garbage dump. Because people were so used to somebody coming to their doors to take it away, that for them now to go down into the street and walk up to a dumpster that we are used to at the end of the street was a no-go. And so
they haven't got the brains to put dumpsters on the highways so people are going to dump their rubbish. Instead of having it, say, 3 or 4 metres high and as long as the street, right? They can put it in the garbage bins, and then the trucks could come along, which they paid $450 million for, and take them to the garbage tip. Right? They haven't thought of that.
Anyway, so talk about a failed system of, and I believe by the time we were there in 2013, that the failure was well notified, and the Zebulun were being engaged more and more to what they were used to doing from, you know, the 40s. So that's the Zebulun.
But Assisi, who was the head of the country there, were taken over by
General
the military
Assisi
coup.
at the time.
His mother was a Mossad agent,
Yes.
and his uncle's a Mossad agent. So his mother immigrated from Morocco, and then he was raised up to be the Muslim, and of course becomes the Muslim chief and army, and now the Israelis control Egypt and they don't even know it. They think it's wonderful, right? That's amazing. The most stupid people. So anyhow, now we've got the Simpsons right. So we see in one episode of The Simpsons, there's Trump standing there with his hands on this bloody glowing ball, Assisi on the other side of him from Egypt, and then the Jew, who is the Saudi prince, they're Jews, right? Or the king, is it? Yeah. He's got his hands on it, right? This is all done 20 years ago or something, before he even thought about becoming president.
That went on Facebook. We had a good laugh at that. The picture
I thought, how pathetic.
Now the thing that Yah had to say is, like, he's lost, Trump in Yah's eyes has lost all credibility. That as soon as he realised that he was the subject of Simpson episodes, he should have not even thought about going for the presidency, or pulled out once somebody made him aware of it. Hello? He's a tool, as we all know. And his alliance with Saudi Arabia.
He fits the bill. I mean, it has to be someone that's going to be in the end time before it all collapses, right? So it's better than Hillary bloody Clinton, isn't it?
Yes, right? Yeah, we all know the process.
Send out for a preacher and get a child delivered, you know what I mean?
All right, let's move right along to your latest production. Oh, no, we won't.
We got a letter.
We got a letter, Maria. We've got one of those letters from Maria. This is the original with the envelope, and it's a great stamped across it in red, mailed from a correctional institute. And this is thanks to Rodney's friend, who was sent over 3 weekends into the correctional facility, and she took the opportunity to tell the inmates about Yah, of course. And I think, last weekend, must have been her last week. Anyway, bottom line is, we've got the letter from 2 of the ladies inside, so we thought we'd read it. It's fairly brief. Everything gets read on the way in and on the way out of these correctional facilities. But they did get the apostolic letter that Rodney snail-mailed to 3 of the girls inside the facility. So this one arrived today, and it's, "Hello, Yahweh. My name is Brianne, and I am here with my friend Alexis." And it was Rodney's friend has provided us with your information. And then she asked, "How's life down under?" "We are sitting on a lengthy stay here," and then she names the facility. "Our plan is to become an active member of society. once we can stabilise sobriety. We've both recently found God and embraced Him in our lives. I must say our lives have brightened so much in the past few months. We read the Bible each night and pray, which helps immensely. We are excited that our paths have crossed, and we will patiently be waiting for your response. Until then, take care. Sincerely, Brianne and Alexis. So, that's awesome. We will respond, of course. That'll be my mission this afternoon. Once we finish recording and after we talk about Yah's latest epic. All I can say, it is an epic. Since the last one, he's been onto it, and then it gets added to day, of course, as new thought comes into his mind and more to add to the download. So, if you try to explain.
Me? I just write them, I can't explain.
Well,
okay.
Where did this one all start? What was the...
India.
No, Philippines. Before
Philippines.
The Philippines, and then India.
What's his name? Jakarta, isn't it?
Duterte.
He's adopted a plan that he's been on when he was mayor of another city, which was the crime murder capital of the Philippines. So he brought in an agreement with the police that they could shoot anybody they liked, basically. But
maybe I better explain it. All right. Roa Duterte was mayor of Davao City in the Philippines for 22 years. And during that time, he turned the city from the murder #1 capital of the Philippines into what has been voted by tourism bodies, associations, as the Philippines' most peaceful city today. And he did it by going for the guys at the top of the drug running, the pushers and the sellers, and also the addicts who refused to stop using drugs. So he empowered the police, because prior to that the police and the army, I believe, were crippled. They had no authority, and if they did take anybody out, then you know what it's like in the USA, all of these royal commissions into the activity, etc. In the meantime, the murderers and the drug dealers get away with what they do best, which is murdering and dealing drugs. So he gave them all authority, not without impunity. They were not to abuse their authority, but they were no longer hands tied to take care of business. So 22 years of being the mayor in office, and he was approached in 2015 to run for Prime Minister, President of the Philippines. And reluctantly, because he didn't really want the job. However, he is of the heart, as Yahweh is, and others, that he would go, and he's quoted in Wikipedia, I believe, as saying this, that he would go to hell himself in order for his people of the Philippines to live in paradise. So in other words, he's got the guts to do what it takes. He is a lawyer, he knows the system, and he has given that authority once more to the broader police throughout the Philippines, and of course the military. Now, regarding the fighting that's been going on in the Mindanao, Marawa, I believe it is, we have a follower who is a Philippine lady. She's married to Jonas on Facebook, and I asked her, I said, what does she think about it? And she said that area has always been under Muslim dominion, and she said there's always fighting, and you take your life into your hands going there. They just murder people a lot. So nothing surprised her, and in her mind, what's going on there is business as normal. However, it did ramp up while President Duterte was in Russia, meeting with Putin And in the meeting he asked them to buy arms. I have the money to pay the bill now, but I need to buy arms from you because this area that was Muslim controlled always, ISIS was now ramping up the fight. And Duterte had already ordered arms from America to fight ISIS within his own country. But America, as Duterte says, they are full of doublespeak. You cannot trust them. Say one thing, do another. Is that they cancelled the order. So Duterte made the flight quickly to Moscow because while he was there, he finds out about ISIS now ramping up the battle in this area of the nation. He's got to go back quickly. And I think we uploaded it, or anyway, I certainly watched it, a brief meeting with Putin, and he was really disturbed by the news of what was happening at home. Please, can you sell me arms? I need them to fight ISIS, and I need your help. So he was assured that by Russia, came home to put down the terrorists coming out of this area that's renowned for being murders. Now, you can watch, you see, you only get to know the soul of these people if you're watching them specifically. What is it that he is saying, because he's got a bad reputation, of course, out of the United Nations and other of these agencies that are all part of the problem, supporting the terrorists. And he's doing what Yah wants him to do. He is taking out the evil. So the PowerPoint that Yah, it incorporates Duterte and what he's doing as a prelude to Armageddon at large, if you like. It's a microcosm of what Armageddon is all about. And it's men like Duterte who know who they are. He is also quoted as saying that he believes in God. He does not believe in the church. Well, how smart is he? And at another time, as they're giving him a hard time about what he's doing, he's saying, look, you know, again, it's logic. And he says, God has created me this way. I cannot let these criminals take the lives of the innocent. So, as you know, Yah is exactly like that. None of turn the other cheek as Jesus, totally concocted. And so the PowerPoint is about Armageddon and Duterte. And then it runs into, of course, the Jordanian codices with that brilliant depiction of Jesus as the 33-year-old, which is Yah today. And I did put in there the description by a man by the name of Massaleel, who was a friend of Jesus at the time, and he's the one that gives the most accurate description of Jesus to Gamaliel. And he describes the large, soft blue eyes and the swarthy complexion, swarthy through exposure, meaning he was suntanned, and so, yeah, it was suntanned, and sun exposure tends to give you wrinkles quickly, so swarthy can mean you look like a leather. It's being kind. Swarthy or tawny, but soft, large blue eyes, etc. So it runs into that, and then, of course, there's been much hype lately over Sanskrit and the gods that the Hindu worship, etc. Well, we've been there, done all that in 2011 when we stayed for 4 months in Fiji. And a Hindu holy man was our guard of the resort we were staying in, and he arrived at our door pretty much the first day we were there in total, and says that his angel had woken him and told him to come down and see us. We were at unit number 12A, the Sky Lodge in Nundig. And so he invited him in, and several hours later he's still there, and he would come and visit us. And he ended up actually cooking for us because he was a chef also. But he came to listen to Yah, and then he told us what their holy scriptures are all about as a holy man of Hindu. And we realised then the tremendous connection with the Essene traditions, of course. And then we'd already been in 2010, in December, to the marriage of the Hindu Raj with his beautiful Hindu converted to Christian, Meena, a beautiful couple. But again, the Hindu Raj knew that the name of God was Yahweh because it was his grandmother, wasn't it, that taught him? Yeah. So it was in Fiji that we had this coming together of Christianity with Hindu, because the Christianity that is being preached through the churches is the abomination out of the devil, Paul. And the knowledge, as you know, of reincarnation has been completely removed, whereas the Essene tradition is the oldest religion. It's literally handed down from Enoch, and it came off the ark. So everything that has sprung from it, including the Hindu Vedas and scriptures. Now, in their Vedas, they too were expecting the crucifixion of Jesus. They even knew his name as well, because their own sages had been given divinely the information. So that by the time of 52 AD, Thomas, who they thought was the twin of Jesus, they looked very much like Jesus, it was Thomas that arrived, and his first encounter was with the Brahmin priest, who immediately received the news, and Thomas was baptized. Thomas baptized them immediately, and there's statues still at the place that he baptized them in, was it the Indus, yeah, the Indus River in India. So this PowerPoint is the marriage of these three areas.
Well, having said that, the point is, there's an area in India called Satana. And it goes back to the Sabians, and the Sabians are actually mentioned in the Old Testament, in Isaiah.
And Job, isn't it?
Yeah,
Job
in particular. Now, Job's the oldest book of the Bible, so therefore, what is Job talking about? Well, the Sabians are the Jews, if you like, of another name that emerged out of India, because when the cartographers first went to India from England, they'd already been consumed by the Jews, right, before they took over India. Because the Jews got back in 1649 after the beheading of Charles I. So they'd taken over. So by the time of Queen Victoria in that era, they had gone into, and the cartographers had found to their dismay that the towns of India all have Hebrew names. Hello. So the one historical fact is that the area of Satana is where the descendants of Cain gathered and became what we know as today as being the Jews, because they are the ones that are behind Judaism. So there was a battle, and Satana was defeated in one battle, but they didn't submit to the war that's ongoing. And of course, they're the ones that moved over into Babylon, and then Babylon, where Judaism was studied under the auspices of the astrologers there that would study, and this also comes from the Essene tradition of studying the stars. So they infiltrated their way in. And it was Pythagoras around 600 AD that went there, after he was at the Great Pyramid for 20 years studying what the priests had told him there. And he had spent 35 years wandering around the Middle East, going to various places. And so therefore he started out as a young man. He was a very elderly man by the time he was eventually to leave the area of Babylon. He was there for 13 years, joined the community of the astrologers, and then went back and started the school of Pythagoras in Egypt, in Greece. So the story is quite complex, but it's quite, once you get it all in your mind, naturally I measure everything. For example, I've done this years ago. You go to the 20-degree latitude of India, and now you can go onto Google Earth, and that is, it's good for one thing, Google Earth. You can zoom in on the beaches and put a dot on it and know where the latitude and longitude is. That's all it's good for. And you can measure across with Magellan, which I've talked to you about before, which is the software that has to be accurate because it's used by aircraft and anything else. And it's 888.88 miles across on the 20-degree latitude. So I've known that for many, many years, because I did it before I had Magellan software. I did it with the atlases that I had in Port Alberta in Canada. And I did it very, very painstakingly to work it all out. So that's what it turned out to be. It's only that with the Magellan I can confirm what I've already known for 15 years or so before I actually did it with Magellan software. So this Satanas is all about the line that runs across the 888.88 latitude, and then the distance from Satanas to the western length of that 888.88 mile long 20 degree latitude across India to the very beach is 105. So then we've got the 105, and I'm born in 105, the heart of Lucifer, because it's Rothschild Avenue. So then from there it branches out, and it gives you the distance around, the area included, and then there's several other measurements I've made. For example, if it's 888.88 miles wide, it must line up with the solar eclipse that occurred on the 25th of January 1944, which was on the 25 degree latitude, slightly west of the Great Pyramid. And the distance is, of course, 888.8 miles to my birth location, 105 Rothschild Avenue. So that gives you then a triangulation again back down to Satanas, and all these marvellous numbers come out of it. And the bottom line is, one of the main numbers that come out of it is Damascus.
Again.
So we're back to Damascus again. Lovely.
Now,
but I'm all over the place. But it has to be, because the way I unveil things, I've got about 20 things going in. Even I'm talking to you now, I'm thinking about other things, right? I'm a little sweetie, for example. And, what? You think I'm joking?
Yeah, keep going.
So, I could go now back to the computer, and these things I've just been talking to you about have reminded me of several other things I can put into more and more and go on forever, really. There's no stop to it. And this is how it goes.
Yeah, the numbers.
So you then you take on. Well, I'll give you the Noah story. There is a photograph from the NASA of India and Sri Lanka, and it's got a land bridge that's underwater, and it was only underwater after the flood of Noah. Now, the Noah story coming out of Sri Lanka, or what I was told by the Hindus,
by Raj, yes.
Raj, is that Noah, he sends out the dove and so forth, and the raven. The raven doesn't come back, but the dove comes back with an olive branch, which is basically the story of the Bible. And where does he come back from? Sri Lanka. At that time it was called Colombo.
Do you know what?
What?
That just brought back, right before we went to Fiji to stay for this, we lived in Victoria, and travelling into Bendigo, remember the ravens? The ravens were the fiend. They were everywhere on the road, and then we would cross a bridge. It just struck me now, you're doing it now, the ravens and the bridge.
So, now, when you look at 1900 and some odd 10 or that era, some of the people that had known about this underwater, and it's 30 kilometres long, this underwater bridge, which was photographed by NASA. What happened was that the drawings depict monkeys, they call them monkeys or apes, right, covering rocks to build this underwater bridge, right, to Sri Lanka. So in Sri Lanka the story is that Noah comes there, now this thing's covered with water because the water from Mars has all poured onto the earth. They go into how the collision affected the earth and how it pushed out of the mantle that created, through Antarctica, that created the moon, and how the circular, yeah, you'll have to look at it. I won't go off in that direction. However, the idea was that on Sri Lanka there's Adam's Peak. Now, if you look on the internet, you'll find, if you can go back far enough, Adam's Peak is 7,353 feet high. And of course they've changed that. As soon as I announce these things, they go and bloody well change it. But anyhow, it is there. I've got the original. And it's, what's that? The area of the Shroud of Turin. But let's forget all about that as being the height, because I'm just telling you that's how it is. That's what the height of it. Take it or leave it. I don't care. The distance from that can be found, and you measure with, not with Google Earth, you measure it with the Magellan software, and it takes you to the North Pole, and the distance is the same distance as the 11-layered pyramid that Cook discovered on Tahiti.
Which is highest mountain is 735 feet.
The highest mountain on Tahiti, which he didn't know, of course, 7,353 feet. They've also changed that, they've reduced it by a foot.
Yes.
These people are so stupid, right? Like a measure at high tide and low tide, as a sea level. So the distance is 4990.7. So the number is base, 4990 and 4991. Okay. So that is the distance from Adam's Peak to the North Pole and from the Tahiti Pyramid to the South Pole. Now, our car we bought, we paid the same amount in Australian dollars for that car about 3 years ago. Right? And it's been a piece of shit ever since. But
it's like Elisha. It has an oil leak that's constant. We have this pan.
I'm going to start selling oil soon.
Right. But
we got more oil in the car and on the ground. It keeps on building up in the car.
But the level
doesn't go down.
Drops.
We can start selling oil, like a little oil.
And we have to have a pan here where it's parked, but if we go and park in somebody's place overnight, it doesn't leak on the next day. It's been doing it now. We actually paid to have it fixed 2 years ago, and it started leaking again months ago, a long time ago. So we have warned this leak, but the level doesn't drop. No. Anyway.
Now, the number
quirky.
4990 or 4991 means what?
Redeemer, Saviour.
Saviour.
Christ.
Lord Jesus Christ.
Mm.
Right? It's even in small letters, big as tickets. That was the life of Brian.
Yes, yes.
So,
what did we watch just recently that ended with bigger stickers? Something that we'd done years ago.
Oh, one of the movies I made. I uploaded a lot of movies a long time ago. Called it bigger stickers, stuff like that. Because it pisses people off. That's the whole idea. That's why I do things like that.
He's the rock of offence this time. If you haven't noticed, he is rejected. So there's no point being nice to anybody. They're still going to reject him. So he figures it may be right? The rock of offence.
If my mother didn't like me. Oh, dear. Yeah, so that's what that's all about. So we go from Tahiti, we go to India, and all the measurements within India. The passage is leading into the Queen's Chamber. Now, the Queen's Chamber itself, when you go to the exact measurements, it's roughly 206 by 226, but it's actually slightly larger than that. And when you do the measurements of what it actually is by volume, area rather, it's Satan, or Sodom and Gomorrah.
Mm. Now, hasn't it been said of this place called Satanas that it puts Sodom and Gomorrah to shame? Puts Sodom and
Gomorrah to shame.
The evil that comes out of it.
Mm. So that's where the Jews originated from. And they're not Jews per se, they're the descendants of Cain that intermarried with the giants and then go to Babylon. And then you got Babylon, the giants were there, the Chaldeans were giants. And you check out their genealogy and they come back down from the giants, which come from Nimrod, which comes from Cain, which is giants again. And in the presentation, I show you how the animal kingdom has a way of protecting itself from keeping animals from growing too large. And that's a gene in the DNA in a tiger, female, and the male lion were raised as cubs together, and they mated, and the offspring become these animals that are as big as grizzly bears. They're monstrous.
At the shoulder, standing high, they're called liger.
Oh, they're called a liger. They weigh 1,000 pounds, so that's as much as a horse. So, and they're getting still growing. So the point is, the giants of old were lacking because of the mixture of Cain and the offspring of Seth. They continued to produce giants because as in the tiger, the male tiger has a gene that limits growth. So when they have cubs, the babies only grow up to be 500 pounds, for example. In the lion, it's the female that limits growth. So as they're both cats, they can interbreed, and this is where the liger comes from. But neither have a limiting gene that causes them to grow huge. And that is what caused the men of ancient times to be gigantic. And some of them were 36 feet tall. Give me a break. Right? There's even legends of the Romans, and I won't say it's a legend, it's true, that the Romans took them on in battle and had to figure out some way of defeating them because they only came up with their kneecaps.
And that's where cutting them down to size came from.
That's where it comes from.
Cut them off at the kneecaps.
Cut them off at the knees, huh? So they were able to come up with some way of attacking the lower parts of their legs from a distance, luckily, and causes them to fall down. And this is where your story of Goliath and David comes from, and so forth, cutting off their head. So you've got a lot of myth out there, but we can go down to the very areas of research to give us facts. And it's the facts that's going to set you free. It's not some religious bullshit that the Jews have been teaching you in churches for the last 2 centuries. Right? Because it started way before that. And the original story of, you've got the destruction. Hitler said, unless you stop the Jews, the earth will be left a lifeless sphere floating in the ether of space. Right? Because they're all over Hitler. They hate Hitler just as much as they hate Jesus. Right? So we're in good company, Hitler and me, right? I can go along with that. To me, Hitler was a hero. And what he did was some marvellous things. And in war, of course, some nasty things happen. And Hitler gets blamed for everything, no matter who did it. So, yes, some very, very terrible things happen. For example, the Second World War, you got 60 to 70 million Russian peasants were killed by starvation because the army under Stalin took all their equipment away so they would starve to death. And of course he was ruled by the Jews, right? So they couldn't do any farming during the winter time, and if they did, anything they did manage to store away, the army would come and take it, so the people would starve to death. So this is how history is. So if that's not evil, I don't know what is, because the Jews will never mention that. So the point being is that the presentation I'm doing does get a bit lengthy and it's all over the place, but it all connects. And that's the secret of this, is to connect it all together, connect the dots. Where does Satan come from? Well, as I said, when the cartographers first went to India, they found it was all Hebrew names, so Sanskrit does not come from Hebrew, it's the other way around. Yes. Hebrew was first.
Now, the notion that Sanskrit came before Hebrew is only a very modern notion. It was 19th century, and then again it's the academics, and so it's only a very modern notion. Well, but today the world is hung up on it.
Let's say at the time of the cartographers going over to India, you had to speak Greek to get into the universities. Now, why is that so? Well, it gives you a prejudice. The Greek Septuagint dominated. The Jews controlled it. They controlled the universities, Cambridge and Oxford. In actual fact, to give you some idea, if you go to Oxford, the River Thames comes in and then changes its name to Isis and then becomes Thames on the other side as it goes out.
Yes, and we can get out onto the Bruce Highway here and head north.
To Isis.
Once we get to Childers, it becomes the Isis Highway. So we're going to change, it'll be the Brian Highway. Take over. No more Bruce.
Bigger stickers.
Stickers, right. Speaking of which, we have our man Ross, who is down on the streets in the heart of the beast, Canberra, Australia's capital territory, is certainly the heart of the beast here.
The ABC television is at 666 on
Northbourne Avenue. And the Australian Parliament building, of course, is built on the Freemasonry set square and set square, what do you call that? The compass and square, whatever. But it's all totally demonic. And our Prime Minister is a Jew, of course, and he has shares in pharmaceutical corporations.
But the big thing is, when we vote here, we vote in pencil.
Yes, much like...
I just run out what you want.
Yes, much like the Rhiannon's pencil being inside an institution, of course, but yes. So, it'll be interesting. Ross has already reported some very interesting encounters, including the Serbian church yesterday, who walked in as they were all going in for their mass. And
there's a huge, handsome priest, is it?
Yes, the handsome Serbian priest approached him, and he received the news no problem. And of course, Jews are behind everything, mate. He knows because of the horror of the NATO bombing. This is thank you, Clinton. The NATO bombing, I think it was 1998, where the horrors in Serbia at the hands of NATO. NATO should be not only dismantled,
I feel shocked.
They should all, for crimes against humanity, all of the members.
Well, I'll get around to it.
Right. So anyway, the Serbian community in the heart of East Canberra, one man has received the news, accepted the apostolic letter and thanked Ross profoundly. And Ross has a way of delivering a message where you take him very seriously, because he has those piercing blue eyes. There's no smile behind it. It's dead serious, mate, and your angels are watching you. Comprende? Yes. Thank you. So anyway, we'll be hearing from him soon with more updates as to what's going on. And yeah, with that, we'll end this recording until next time. And I'll turn the camera off.
Oh, you will?
I will. You can stay there looking gorgeous. I just have to duck down to...
you could have walked in front of it, darling. No problem.
I don't want to get in... Okay.
Hasta la vista, baby.
And later, gators.